Welcome to your next tech startup, the podcast exploring why startup hiring is tough and interviews suck. Host Isabel Rasmussen, a head of technical recruitment, draws on over a decade of experience along with expert guests to unpack what's broken and how to fix it. Let's dive in.
Welcome to your next tech startup. Today, I am speaking with Samir. He is the VP of Engineering at Tellius. And we're going to be talking about the challenges that he's facing to hire engineers that have AI experience to help build their product and what he's experiencing from the hiring manager side of things. So Samir, please introduce yourself.
I'm the VP of Engineering at Tellius. We are a Series B company, and we have a team of around 40, 50 engineers working on the existing product. And what we are starting to do is to grow the team to hire more AI-focused engineers to deliver new capabilities within Tellius platform, especially the AI agents.
And you're making hires, whether they can be in the United States or in India. Is there a new or different challenge in regards to candidate that you're dealing with now that maybe you weren't dealing with 5 years ago?
So previously, about few years back, I could write some code, test code, and I could become good at it because it's static in nature. But the very nature of AI today is that with ChatGPT is that you have to understand what is inside to be able to get the maximum benefit out of it.
Okay.
But the expectations of the candidate is that it's still in the same old way. Like I have written this few example code, now I'm ready to do this, tackle this larger problem, right? And it's very hard and it's this new culture of like instant gratification where the amount of, like I used to spend hours understanding the concepts in depth, right? But now the instant gratification is like, okay, I've read this, I'm able to do it. But the gap to actually doing it is fairly large. And I think that's something that, I have seen, at least in the interviews and the candidates I've interviewed. Maybe it's not true for everybody.
So, okay, I want to see if I'm understanding this right. Is that, go back to like earlier in your career when you needed to solve a problem, the time and understanding that you would take to do that was significant, and therefore you'd really understand what you had accomplished. And that now,
Yes.
because of ChatGPT, they can, just kind of do, I guess, a couple of commands or whatever and get the same or similar end product, but they didn't have to develop as an engineer to understand what they're
Yeah.
getting. And so it's almost like a shallowness in like you're
Yes.
getting the results, but you're not understanding. I guess it's like getting a cheat sheet, almost like when you were a kid.
Now, right now, ChatGPT has become the cheat. Basically, nobody asked this question in general, right? How do you reverse a string? It's a simple programming question that everybody understands. Back in the day, it was a tough problem to solve because it requires understanding of the system. It's almost like I can ask that question and I have every person that I have interviewed struggle to answer that question for like 30 to 40 minutes. They don't even understand, the basic core fundamentals that are needed for an engineer to do well, right? So
And
it might be partly because of the type of candidates I got.
when
So,
people say core fundamentals, like I don't know if we all agree on what core fundamentals are. So just like, what are some core fundamentals to you?
so the core fundamentals for me is breaking down the problem logically, think about logical steps, think about how, you know, you don't have any of the gadgets. How do you put something together by, going this methodical way to put it? Then core fundamentals are how do you make it such that I'm able to understand what you're explaining to me, not just code, right? It's not like I've written this, it works. It's not the right thing. The key aspects of like collaboration, which is like you have to write code that is testable. Right? These are key values that you look for in a good engineer, right? Irrespective of how many years of experience you have, these are some core fundamentals that everyone should have, every good engineer will have.
And
And
then by asking
the question is like, when I ask like simple question like reverse this thing, would be able to at least explain explain it away such that reverse this thing is one of the fundamental programming concept,
Oh,
right? It's very basic.
so let's end on the experience that you're having with interviewing and feeling like there's basic understanding, things that are missing for these early career software engineers. What advice do you have for them, for these people who are looking for roles, who are struggling, and that AI has been, they've graduated with their CS degree in the last few years?
Yeah.
What advice do you have?
My basic advice is AI is a tool that you can use to make your job better. But so this is what I tell my engineers, right? Every engineer in my company, every work that you do, you have to do something to make yourself better,
Mhm.
right? So be selfish, right? And in that, your goal should be to the learn and take a step forward in that goal. And that goal should not be that I'm going to write this function, but anybody can write a function. So my son plays racquetball. He's national champion. He's been there since 5 years.
Uh-huh.
He goes into the court and he starts whacking the ball, right? Because he wants to win the world championship game. He's struggling. I keep telling him, your goal is not to win the point, but build the rally so that you can win the point. You got to build yourself every step of the way. It's not to say, I have done this, but how much you have progressed between starting that and where you have ended. What have you learned? That is the key. As long as you keep learning, you will see the difference. You might not get the instantly, you might not, in some cases, you might feel that, oh, it's taking too long. But that progression of like a few weeks or a few months is going to put you in a different bucket of people than, you're today.
Yeah. So with that idea of learning and growing yourself as an engineer in this AI space, what for someone who's unemployed right now, and whether it be they have 2 years or 10 years of experience as an engineer, and they want to get into an AI company like yours, what are the things that they should be taking the time to learn on their own, or maybe even build on their own and demonstrate when they're interviewing?
Part of the journey that I have done is that I have actually today in this day, there's so many people giving out information, so many people sharing their experiences. And there's a ton of material on the net which says from 0 to 1, right? How do you get from being you don't know anything to this? If anybody wants to connect with me, I'm happy to share that information. I have those, but I don't have anything on the top of my head. You can start from learning what ChatGPT is, what transformer architecture is, how to use OpenAI. You can focus on infrastructure, you can focus on product, you can focus on tooling, you can focus on the capabilities of different platforms available. There are ton of tools to this.
Really
My
understanding how all of these AI tools work is what you want in a engineer working at an AI startup.
Yes. And also like not even understanding the whole thing, but being able to understand the core concepts of how to put all these together, right? So the one thing is like, okay, uh, one thing that hasn't changed, whether you are using AI or not, software engineering hasn't changed. There is still the same amount of things. You have to go and write some API, get some data from somewhere. Connect all these things haven't changed fundamentally.
Right.
Things have gotten just that there are different set of tools now, and it is still as hard as 5 years back to do software engineering. It's not easy. It's just that because of these tools, you can do more than what you could do 5 years ago.
Okay.
So
But
the speed is
gap is that
increased.
people are using the tools, but they're not understanding the tools. Okay.
Yes.
So really kind of understand the tools that you're going to be utilizing to be more effective as a software engineer. And that in itself will help you land a role potentially at an AI startup.
Yes. I will say that they're not understanding enough
Okay.
to in depth, right? There's a difference. There is a difference of like what I was trying to say is that it's more about grasping the fundamental concept because, like I said, software engineering has not changed. It's just that now you call it AI engineering, but the engineering concepts still fundamentally remain the same. It's just the tool set that you're using is different.
Okay.
So that's the gap.
Okay. No, that's a great perspective. And like a lot of people are really struggling on why they're not passing interviews, getting enough interviews. And so I think this is like really helpful advice.
I can add to one more
Mhm.
thing, that passing interviews is very subjective. And, the one thing which if anybody asks me an advice, it takes at least 10, 20, like it used to take 10, 20 interviews for somebody to get into this rhythm of doing interviews. I think that should not be your bar of learning. Interviews will happen and it will come through. They will come through. They have two separate paths in general.
Yeah. I mean, there is definitely a part of like learning how to interview better, and which is unfortunate, but in this market, that's, people are just holding out until they're making the right hire and because they know they can get enough candidates. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing your knowledge, and we'll have to talk again.
All right. Thanks.